Welcome to the OTech Talks podcast, where it's all about working on technologies. You will hear the latest tech information, and your host, Kashif Manzoor, brings together product overviews, how-tos, best practices, tips and tricks, and troubleshooting techniques.
Welcome to the OTech Talks podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Marcus Glowes, authority in project management. And we would love to hear from Marcus, his experience, how he has started his journey, and what are the new ways to share with our community of project management professionals or any individual who want to become a project management professional. So what are the areas you need to cover and need to focus on it, and even the new way of the world is changing. So welcome, Marcus, to the OTech Talks podcast. It's an open tech talk technology. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kashif. Thanks for the invitation. Great for being here.
Thank you so much. So if someone asks, who's Marcus? How you will describe yourself? And for me as an individual, like Kashif, or my audience, who's maybe a tech individual or a project manager or executive, CIO, CTO. So how will they know who's Marcus? And if you can give us some intro, explain.
Of course, thanks, Kashif. That's an interesting question, obviously. But I don't really like to go into titles and CTO, CFO, CEO, whatever. Right? This is usually not really meaningful, right? If you don't get the full context, right? And also get the background. So, I am a project manager, right? Simply as that, right? And my personal background is, first of all, I'm from Germany. I live in Switzerland for the last 10 years or so.
Okay.
I have a work career of over 25 years. I worked in technology basically all my career already. And so started actually in software development and then in technology projects, worked as an analyst, worked as a consultant. I worked internationally in various countries and continents. It's probably something that often happens, right? When people are taking a certain role in projects, like in my case, I started as a developer and then got two more analyst roles. Either you get actually pushed or you actually have that ambition to actually run a project yourself or manage a project, right? In my case, I actually had that ambition to become a project manager. And that was approximately 15 years ago. And you know that probably yourself, that many people, they don't, and that's why I was saying I don't really focus much on titles because there are many people out there that are actually acting as an analyst or so, but actually, in fact, are not only doing business analysis or anything of that sort, but also actually run a project and manage a project. And that was similar in my case. Before then, actually, I got officially the title of a project manager. And got then responsibility with all what we know from the PMBOK, right, in terms of cost, schedule, responsibilities for projects, etc. Right. So as I said, I'm mainly focused on technology. So my project management experience is based on or within the technology area in various industries, but main focus was so far the financial services area.
Right.
And that's basically in a nutshell to summarize it, if I can call it.
Right.
Nutshell. No. But it's basically my background.
Okay, got it. So now over the years, now I understood, started as software and then from last working on technology and passion as in a project management. So how you treat over the years from last maybe 15 years to 10 years, and with the new emerging technologies and all the new world, how you see the changes happening in the project management?
Yes. So, I mean, there happened obviously a lot in the project management area, and we all are familiar that, digital transformations happening everywhere, right? In many organizations. And I mean, to start with, if we look at the personal level, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember when I started as a project manager, we didn't have like Zoom calls like we have right now, or video calls at all. So it was all over the phone, and we didn't have this technology in terms of where you have basically your smartphone in the hand and have all kinds of apps for collaboration, communication. Or today we use Slack, we use Jira, Confluence, all kinds of tools, right? We didn't have that, at least when I started in the project management area. So everything became more digitalized, right? Over the years. And from a project management area, you basically see it also firsthand, because you are, as a project manager, at least, I mean, depending on your area where you're working on. But in my case, I actually worked in projects where I actually was responsible to innovate certain business areas, right? Where things became more digitalized. And I ran projects actually to contribute to this digitalization journey in organizations. So you basically saw there already that there's some change happening on the business side. So that obviously has then also some impact on the project management area itself. Mm-hmm. And as I said, right, we, from a collaboration point of view, we became much more effective and efficient. But we also realized that things became much faster, right? So, since business areas are changing much faster because of the digitalization that happens in all kinds of areas, especially like in the areas that I know of, like financial services, for example, banking, where I worked in for many years. Where things, when you open a bank account years ago, that took like weeks until that was concluded. And today it's basically done almost instantly. And so things are going very fast, and it has an impact on project management because then change is happening very fast. So, and everything became more volatile and much faster. And we are familiar with the term. It's almost a buzzword like VUCA, right? Volatility, and everything becomes more uncertain and complex. So that has an impact on project management, right? And that's kind of how I see it from a project management angle, how I've observed it, that things became more complex over the last years, especially. And especially actually when COVID hit us, for me, it was kind of an eye-opener. Although in the project management area, it was nothing new really, but it kind of like has shown it like in front of us. Look, how fast things can change. And literally from one day to another, organizations had to send their workforce to home office, and obviously as a larger organization have to deal with like, I don't know, 50,000, 100,000 people, whatever, right? To everybody work from home, right? And then everybody uses internet, etc. So a lot of stuff became much faster, and decision-making became much faster. And we know that in project management, everything is around decisions and decision-making. And so that means we have to become much faster. And that triggers a lot of discussions also in terms of technology, or making use of technology in the project management area, and any other methods and ways to actually become more effective, more efficient, right? So that's kind of the observations that I think we all experienced in the project management area. And I went on and investigated that topic further and explored kind of areas further in terms of research, etc., and came up with some ideas that I tried to elaborate further and explore.
Okay. So with the pandemic and after now we are started getting normalization and with these technology changes, what are the key areas which you think now organizations or anyone who's linked to the project management need to keep in mind? Is it something practices are changing or have changed? Or is there any learning curve which they need to go through to be an effective project manager? So what are the key areas for example, as an organization or as an individual, they need to keep in mind to take informed decisions, which you're talking about, or a data, or from a management point of view? What are the new practices which you researched it? If you can share some insight onto that.
Right. So, I mean, first of all, and that's, again, it's really nothing new, but it needs to be, people need to be aware of, right? I mean, project management, it's all about learning, right? And you never should stop learning there, right? Some may think, okay, I do a PMP or any of those certifications, and then I'm a project manager and I just run this off like a routine work. That's not going to happen, and that's not the way of doing it, right? Because everything is changing, and projects we know is all about future events. So we kind of have to have that skill to forecast and predict events that happen in the future, right? So there's an uncertainty in this whole picture in there, right? And what I mentioned before, everything became more complex and also uncertain. So this kind of broadens this gap, basically, right? In terms of uncertainty. So some actually need to be aware of this and make an attempt to actually fill this gap. And how are we going to do this? So first of all, project management, from a project management point of view, you have to actually broaden your view, right? You cannot have that narrow view, right? So everything needs to become more interconnected. Since we are living in an interconnected world, everything is, as I said, becoming faster, and data is flowing much faster, and we have a massive load of data that we need to digest and process, right? Also in projects. So basically, you need to have what I call more this business agility, right? So, and people always confuse that with, okay, we are agile, so we are more responsive to change and etc. So we're more flexible in many ways, which is all valid, it's all good. But that needs to go a step further. Right now with this with development in terms of complexity and uncertainty, right? So we need to be more have more like some agility mindset, and that means you need to have a fuller view also from a business point of view. So if projects, in my case, for example, technology project management, right? So I cannot manage a project just by looking at a certain deliverable or a certain area of technology and not really being focused on what it actually is, what's the purpose, right? So you have to more like a broader view on the outcome rather than the output. I mean, that always has been the case, really, but it becomes more relevant today, I think, more important. And that's why I think everything needs to be more interconnected. I mean, in agile worlds, we talk about squads and guilds, etc., you name it, right, to actually trigger this. But it needs to be more further explored, I think. So that's from a more like from a people point of view, how to actually look at things, right? From a technology point of view, I think, as I said before, I mean, technology plays a role, and the uncertainty is increasing and the data load is increasing. We are simply not able anymore to process this in a very fast way. You know, we have to get to fast decisions, as we said before, everything becomes faster. We have to respond to change faster. We have to respond to disruption much faster. So, and then you have to take decisions. Right. So coming back to the pandemic, right? When everybody, when that hit everyone, right? Then decisions had to be taken very fast from one day to another. You wait another day, you basically, I mean, whatever happened yesterday became already obsolete, right? Everything changed already, right? So it becomes that fast. And we don't have the capability anymore, right? From a human point of view, it's just not possible. Because we have to process all this information, process all this data that's relevant for our decision making, to become really informed in our decision making. We're not able to actually process all this. So we really get just a snippet of data or information that we can process, which on top of it is actually highly biased, because we're all hit by cognitive biases, obviously. And then your decision making is basically flawed, right? So there's a lot of intuition flowing into decision making, a lot of gut feeling, etc. And it's not really based anymore on information and data. But don't get me wrong, right? Intuition is still relevant, right? So a lot of people misunderstand, like, okay, then new technologies like analytics and then artificial intelligence comes in and they take away our jobs, etc. That might be the case for some professions, but in the project management area, that it's not going to happen, right? It's not eliminating the project manager role. It's really just what I call a hybrid intelligence, because as I said before, right, we need to actually process all the data. We need to digest it, right? And we are not humanly capable of that anymore. So we can make use of technologies such as AI to actually collect all this data, find patterns, and actually present it to us or the decision maker. And we have to mix it up with our intuition, with our own experience, right? So that's basically the concept of hybrid intelligence.
True. And I think if I relate to and what the things I picked up from our discussion. See, in a few years back, I was also doing a role of project manager and then project director. And that was a pure implementation of applications and larger projects, 12 months, 18 months, 6 months down the line with number of organizations or sub companies where we were implementing it. The point you mentioned, project management aligned to be with the business context. I think that's very key point which you mentioned, and which maybe, the project manager don't need to forget that one, that why this project is happening, the business context. And then the second part I picked up from your discussion, that the tools which AI or the data which can be used now to have informed and quick or a predictive decisions. Right. So those are very important. So if you can give some more maybe explanation or detail to AI or these informed decisions data, is there any tools are being used, or how? I mean, the typical case was, okay, project manager need to build the Microsoft project plan, and then you start monitoring it, and still now a typical PM role revolves around that one. So maybe if you can give us some more insight to it, that how to get out of that. That's also important part, managing the day by day and efforts and all that, but it need to go into some bigger picture. And
yeah, no, that's a good point. And especially when it comes to like technologies like AI, obviously this is nothing that can be implemented like from one day to another, right? It relies on data. Right. And we know that in project management or project data, essentially, right, we have some challenges there, right? Because a lot of project data is in a very unstructured way. It's maybe not even accessible in a way. So for example, and that's what comes basically back to behavioral changes that need to happen in the project management space. Like, because what I always talk about is how we actually handle the data in project management or projects generally speaking. So let's take, for example, project schedules, right? I mean, this is data. So we create project plans and project schedules. We create risk registers, stakeholder maps, etc., right? So this is all data. And unfortunately, when a project ends, what usually happens is all this data will be stored somewhere in some SharePoint or anywhere, and it sits there, and you can call it then dark data because nobody touches that anymore, just occupying space, right? And this is valuable data because you can take lessons out of it, and that leads to lessons learned, obviously, or usually, but that also is often just being handled in a way because it needs to get done, because it's on the it's in our project management framework. We need to get the lessons learned done, so we just tick it off basically. We have done it, but it's again not really being shared. It maybe sits in some more mature organizations in some PMO repository, and they're supposed to make some conclusions out of it. But effectively, that's not really happening in a way that you really can take insights out of it, right? And so usually we say like that projects are unique constructs, right? And effectively, I mean, there are basically, because every project is unique in a way because we produce unique outcomes. But you know, there are many steps in a project that are not unique at all because we just do it all the time, you know, especially when, you know, software development projects, right? I mean, there are, you know, when you build software, certainly the software that comes out at the end is a unique thing, but all the components of it, there are many components that are actually exactly the same. And it's like similar to you build a house or something, right? I mean, there are many elements that are similar all over the place. So we can take insights out of it, right? But if you don't maintain the data, then you will have a hard time doing it. And then coming back to the talk about the concept of artificial intelligence. So AI obviously relies on data, right? But if you don't maintain the data, then it's completely useless. So the first step, and coming back to your question, right? So the first step actually to take that direction, right, is really like handling data in a much different way in project management and in a much more diligent way, right? And build up some data repository that's really useful, right? Obviously, and that's my experience, right? Many organizations say, oh yeah, AI, that sounds all interesting, etc., right? But I mean, we have to build up all the data. Where are we getting the data from, right? So then that takes a while, right? Maybe it takes a year or so before we have really some repository where we really where it makes sense to find patterns, etc. But we don't have a year. I mean, who wants to actually invest in something where you see the benefits only in a year from now, right? That's you know, nobody wants to do that really, right? So you have to find some quick wins effectively, right? So AI certainly is something that requires some time, but I mean, you can apply analytics in a way that you can already get benefits actually rather quick, right? And there are good methods that you can apply, like Oxford University. I mean, they created this reference class forecasting method, for example. That's something where you obviously rely on data from historical projects, but you can actually get this from, you know, surveys that you can conduct with stakeholders or previous project managers, etc., right, to get at least started on this whole journey, right? Obviously, it's not from a data collection point of view, it there is some bias probably in there, right? And but I mean, it's a start. If you don't start, you'll not get anywhere, right? So you have to actually start somewhere, and you can definitely get better rather quick. But I mean, to really make it fully beneficial to an organization, you really have to build up your data repository and your handle it actually in a much more diligent way and really respect the data. That's how I usually call it, right? Because it feels kind of like throwing data just like into the ocean, right? Just like plastic waste, and and never look at this again, right? And we're polluting our entire project economy with that, right? And that what needs to be taken care of, I think.
Okay. So what do you do nowadays? So I gone through your profile, and I think you have done some introduce some innovative way of project management trainings, or what are the new techniques apart from PMP or PMBOK book point of view? So what are the, I mean, one is one industry experience being a project management, and then the learning and training, getting training it. So how you describe it then?
Yeah, from a training point of view, I mean, I focus on what was mentioned before, right? In terms of this more like going into some agility direction, right? Okay. And I'm not really a big fan of, what I experienced also during when I was working as a project manager in several organizations, where we think, oh, we have to innovate, or we have to become better in project management. So everybody gets sent off to agile trainings or certifications, etc. Right? In my view, this is not helping. I mean, it's helping to a certain degree because you get basically the foundational skills, but you need to get much more, right? You need to basically have these practical skills first, right? And as well, you need to not only the project management, the hard skills, you need to actually focus also on some more soft skills, right? Like you need like more some creative thinking, some critical questioning, right? You need to actually, especially when it comes to data analytics and artificial intelligence at the end, which I think is certainly the future, you need to question more, right? You need to ask more why certain things are actually happening. Why are we even doing certain projects, right? And basically, question everything, right? And have that critical thinking in your mind. So this is kind of the focus that I have, because I think it's not being done in a very sufficient way, because many times I see projects and project managers where they just say, yeah, we got a mandate, we have to deliver this by that and that date, and it's rock solid, it needs to get done, and otherwise now we are we have a real problem here, etc. Right? Which of course, there are many constraints in terms of timelines, etc. But I mean, often it happens that projects may become not even relevant anymore. I mean, certain projects and actually should get terminated the way, but they're just being done because somebody just needs to tick off that I have delivered that project. And it's done. And in my performance review, I've achieved my goals, etc. Right? But actually, it's a completely waste or useless, right? Kind of thing. So this is kind of a mindset that I have seen many times, right? So everything needs to become more flexible, and I call it like embracing actually all this, what we call like uncertainty and volatility, right? And take actually opportunities, right? So that's when it comes to project management training, I think that needs to be more the focus, right? So instead of just focusing on, there are uncertain things, let's just eliminate this, right? Or mitigate this in a way and just get the project delivered just to keep it as per the plan, right? Running, right? Disruption is not a bad thing, maybe, right? And uncertainty is also not a bad thing because it opens doors, right? To new opportunities, right? So people need to actually get in a different mindset of actually embracing things and not having that fear, oh, we're not delivering that project by that date, right? Maybe that date is really critical for a particular project, but often it's actually better just to take a step back, have an outside view, look at all this, and reflect on what's actually happened with uncertainty, and then actually maybe see, and it often comes out then, okay, actually we shouldn't even do that project anymore. We should take a complete different direction, right? And then really deliver value, right? So that's kind of how I say it.
So if someone wants to start a career in the project management, or maybe he's ambitious, where should he start?
Where should we start? I mean, I can just reflect on myself, and I think, I mean, how I have done it.
Right.
And as I said before, right, I was working in software development as an analyst eventually. And then I had that ambition to actually become a project manager, right? So as I said before, I mean, a PMP or certification, it doesn't make you automatically a project manager, right? But in my case, and I'm sure many people do that actually, they just take the certification to actually get a project manager role. And in my case, that happened because many organizations are just like focused on this, right? Okay, he's a PMP, so and we need a PMP. It's basically in the job description, right? Which I wouldn't agree with that, or it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it makes sense that, okay, you know, obviously something, but it doesn't make you a full-fledged project manager, right? But that was my approach, right, to take that journey. So I took several other project management certifications, and that drove me then to certain project, obviously experience, that was the most critical part. But I mean, from all what I've experienced over the years, I think the one thing that really is the most critical thing for any project manager, right? Or one who wants to become one, right? Is actually learning and never stop learning, right? So I mean, I have to read. I mean, there are tons of books out there, right? And it doesn't mean that you have to go to Amazon and look up project management, right? And find all kinds of how to become PMP certified, et cetera. Don't do that, right? actually, there are many books out there who actually don't have necessarily something to do directly with project management,
right?
But they actually give you some more a view on how to manage certain things, right? And everything happens in projects, right? I mentioned a few things like critical thinking, and you need to be resilient, right? You need to actually negotiate, right? Many times, right? So these are all skills that a project manager needs to have. So this is, I think you get much more value out of this when you focus on these elements and these less items that are actually specifically focused on project management, but actually all these other traits, right? You get much more out of this than if you would just buy a book of how to get PMP certified, right? It basically gives you the tools, but you need to actually make sure that you can handle those tools, right? And that you get that somewhere else, right?
True. So before we conclude today's our discussion, so what are some of the tips if someone is a practitioner, he's a project manager, and is already doing it? So based on your experience and teaching so many, new PM project managers or individuals, what are the one or two or three some tips you want to share with them, or some of the key areas with the changing environment we need to keep in mind?
Yeah, I mean, a few things that I mentioned already. I mean, first of all, you just need to be open, right? And you need to make sure that, how can I put this? Because in project management, as I said before, we learn a lot, right? We learn techniques, etc. But you have to actually get the capability, or be at least open to it, to unlearn it. Because it's an evolution, right? Project management is an evolutionary thing, right? A lot of things are happening and changing, right? I mean, before there was those traditional methods, and agile came in for technology projects. Right now we look at some transition into data driven or data informed ways of working, right? So and it's important that project management is evolving, right? And it means for project management professionals that we have to constantly unlearn things and relearn them, and basically constantly are in this cycle, right? And so, as I said before, right, if someone just learns things and just applies just like in a routine, then that will not work. And talking about routine, a project never should be actually seen as a routine, right? And so we always have to be open, especially, you know, we were talking about complexity and uncertainty. Things can happen anytime, and you need to get kind of prepared. So you need to have that mindset or that openness to certain things are happening, which could be positive or negative, right? Not everything that changes your plan is a bad thing, right? It could be a good thing. So there are opportunities, right? So, for example, when we always look at risk management, we always see that as a negative thing, or risk as a negative thing, but risk is not necessarily a negative thing. So, I mean, concluding, you mentioned 3 points. I think it's like this openness or mindfulness, let's say, right, to your environments in project management and beyond. So also from a business point of view, asking constantly those why questions. Why are we doing this? You need to get this understanding, right? If someone tells you do this project, you ask why. It's not of your business. Yes, it is of my business because I'm running this project, right? And I need to understand, right? And obviously need to be also open for new ways of working, because there's a resistance to change. And I'm not saying change from a, you know, because project is always about change. So we should not even be resistant there, but I'm talking about change resistance within the area of project management. And that's what's happening when we talk about AI and analytics and all these kind of new or innovative ways, right? So someone actually needs to be open to this, because as I said, it's an evolutionary construct, and it needs to be.
Thank you so much, Marcus, for joining us and sharing the experience and even the learning path for someone if you want to join and start a career in project management. And if someone wants to approach you, reach you to get some advice, where we can pass them to your website or personal Twitter or some link if you can share.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I have my own website, markusglovers.com, which is mainly around my training and coaching offerings. If you want to learn more about what I have spoken about, the innovative topics, I mean, there's also a schedule of certain events. I speak frequently at project management conferences, or AI specifically, as you mentioned at the beginning. I'm actually involved in a startup. I'm a co-founder of Fortian.ai, which is focused on actually producing the tools that we need for effective project management using AI. And I can pass that along, obviously.
Sure. I think that's Good point mentioning it. 14, and that's the something which we required along with the traditional way of managing the project management as a not only the Gantt chart or a Gantt chart, right? We need to come out of that one to have the. That's very good. Interesting to know. Thank you so much once again, and it was lovely to have a conversation with you. Hopefully, we'll keep in touch and learn something more on the project management.
Thank you very much, Kashif. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the OTech Talks podcast, and be part of Tech Talks at otechtalks.tv. It's a turf to share ideas, insights, and innovations.